Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is session 17 of our ongoing Alien campaign, AvPvE. The crew has recovered Ellen Ripley and a lot of Predator technology, and there's a lot to discuss about the next steps and what they want to do, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Please, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Like the video, leave your comments below. It's coming to an end on this campaign, and it's been a lot of fun to run, and I really hope the community has enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, guys. Uh, Jim might be AFK for a bit. He said he had to run out to the pharmacy as soon as they opened. So, um, I it was almost like Christmas here for a few days, because I got two Free League packages in the mail in the last week, and one of them was Heart of Darkness, which I've read through the PDF once, and I'm going to be honest. Heart of Darkness, I haven't decided if I'm going to run it or when I'm going to run it or what I'm going to do with it, because I have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth from it. I don't think have any of you read Heart of Darkness? I hope not. If we're going to play it, obviously.
No.
Nope.
So I will tell you one thing about it. I was flipping through the PDF when I got it, um, and I came across a page that stopped me dead in my tracks, and I never finished reading Heart of Darkness, and I still haven't. Because I came across the page with the playable cat character. If one of your PCs dies, you can play the cat.
Which was your invention?
In October of last year, 4 or 6 months before Heart of Darkness, the first download was ever available, I put the cat career out on the Free League Facebook page. It's on my website. You can download it. And it really irked me, and I was really sour on Free League for a while. And I even contacted them about it. Of course, I got, well, our products are in development for more than months. They're in development for years. So this is just an unfortunate coincidence. Yada yada yada. And I actually even got the story direct from Dave Seamark, um, and of course Andrew C. Gasca, who wrote it, said that he came up with the idea while they were playtesting the product. And Dave Seamark said the same thing. It was Drew's idea. It just came out of nowhere one night where we were sitting around the table, or the virtual table. Okay, well, whatever. Um, but so anyway, I got Heart of Darkness, and we might do something with that at some point in the future. I also got all my Blade Runner shit, because I backed that on Kickstarter at the top level. So I've got all this Blade Runner stuff, and it's absolutely beautiful looking. Um, I opened that last night, and in fact, this morning, while he was killing time, my 14-year-old son saw the book, and he goes, "Is that a role-playing game?" I said, "Yeah." And he picked it up and he starts reading it. 10 minutes later, he's creating a character. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm making a character." I'm like, "Okay. I don't even know when we're going to play this." He goes, "It's okay. It looks cool. I'm excited." I'm like, "You've seen the movie one time. How can you be so excited about this?" Um, so, anyway, there's that. Um, and then one last thing, Conan. Obviously, I do want to play Conan again, and I don't know when we will, but if you guys are not aware, um, Modifius, who has created this incredible RPG with all of these products and all of these accessories and all this stuff that has just really brought Hyboria to life for me in a role playing setting, has lost the license. It is going to Monolith.
How do you lose the license? It
Well,
just the term expires and they don't renew?
yeah, and I'm gonna give you my inside take on that. It's gone to Monolith, who has a Conan RPG board game. Um, Monolith is owned by a company that they recently changed their name. They're now called Hero something. I can't remember what it's called. But they used to be Games Cabinet. Games Cabinet last year purchased Funcom, which Funcom is the company that makes all of the Conan video games. The Age of Conan MMO, Conan Exiles, their Minecraft Conan game. That's what it is. It's Minecraft but in Conan. Um, and a couple other games that are either developed or in development. I don't remember. So to me, it's all clearly a political thing within the gaming community because Monolith has already run a Kickstarter for their RPG, for their new Conan RPG, and it failed hard. It didn't even get close to raising money. Whereas Modiphius's game raised insane amounts of money because they really know what they're doing. Anyway, the point of me telling you this is I think they said by June of next year you will not be able to purchase the Modiphius book. So if this is something you guys are interested in, you should go you should check out their website if you want to get your hands on any of the PDF rule books.
Cool.
So anyway, there's all
Yeah,
that.
thank you for that info.
Yeah, I'm really salty about it, if you can't tell, um, because there's been shots taken at making a Conan RPG many times over the decades, and in fact, after the Arnold movies came out, TSR brought out two Conan modules, um, and they were okay. They're kind of fun. I mean, but Modiphius went out of their way to really plan this and meet with all the Conan scholars that exist because they truly do exist. There's a lot of what's considered canon and not canon, and they really went hard to do it right. And anyway, it's a shame to me that it's only been out a few years and it's going to go away because a company wants to hold on to their license and not let someone else have it. So anyway, either that or they probably wanted so much money. Modiphius said we can't do it.
So, just for interest's sake, this is the third license that Modiphius has lost in a couple of years, or in a few years.
That's a
So,
true
yeah.
statement. That's a true statement. And
What were the
um,
other ones?
Uh, World of Darkness, Vampire,
yep,
Oh,
and Call of Cthulhu.
yep, yeah. And I don't know what the reason for that is. Obviously, there might be some internal workings at Modiphius that has something to do with that. Maybe they're. I will admit that most of what's come out for the Conan RPG came out when the game came out. Like it was all laid out on their Kickstarter, and they haven't produced a lot since then. So maybe it's an issue of they're really good at launching something, but I mean, look at their Star Trek MMO or their MMO, their Star Trek RPG, for example. They have produced very little for that in general over the last, I don't know, a couple years that it's been out. So, I don't know.
Yeah, they've
Or maybe it
they've
just never
been
sold that much.
producing, they've been producing quite a lot for their Cthulhu RPG that they're building in house. So
so
maybe they're keeping that.
so what happens?
I'll be right back, guys. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Let me ask a question then.
Hmm.
If you have a license for a certain period of time and you develop the product further and then your license expires, what happens to all that IP? Do you keep it or does it revert back to the
My understanding is that everything you created, like for instance, in the case of an RPG, your game system and how it works, all that is still yours. You just can't sell it though, and you can't distribute it. So that's my understanding.
All right. Because in my past life, I had some contracts where the contract allowed you to develop and distribute the product and develop it further, but all developments and ownership revert back to the original owner. In other words, you don't own any of it
Hmm.
ever. No matter, even if you develop it using money, you don't own it. They have perpetual rights of use of everything that you develop.
Wow. I'm
So
I'm just going to
we
say
said,
that sounds like bullshit to me.
well, we said, no, we're not doing that. What other companies did, and other companies got rich off of it. And what we found was, once you formed a relationship with somebody, there was a lot of inertia there. It was difficult for them to quit that person.
Hmm.
Anyway, all right.
All right. Other than that, uh, minor announcement. I might have a phone call come in here or there that I have to take. There's a couple things I'm dealing with, so I'll let you know if that happens. And I apologize in advance. Um, let's see here. I'm going to do this. Let's see. Um, okay. That's the link to Modifius's website if anybody needs it. If anyone's interested. Um, so where we left off,
Yes, please. It's been quite some time.
yeah, I apologize for that too.
It's not your fault.
Well, I
The
think
holidays are the holidays.
yeah, to some extent, I suppose. Um, you guys had gone to, and I believe I signed experience last time, so
Oh gosh,
we
I
got
don't
to look at
know
that
if I
too.
did anything with that.
Anyway, you guys had gone to the Talos star system, hoping to find Hicks and Newt, hoping to find Ellen Ripley. Um, you found a Weyland Yutani base on the dark side of a planet that perpetually faces its sun, and that base was basically deserted. You moved through some buildings. You found a lot of technology um, that you guys could immediately identify as having been Yautja technology. Clearly, Weyland Yutani was was working on a lot of that. On top of that, there were xenomorphs there, and for a moment you thought that you had a you thought you had a Yautja on site as well. And as it turns out, it was not, but in fact, it was Ellen Ripley who had commandeered some either Yautja tech or probably Yautja re-engineered Yautja technology rather, so whatever Weyland Yutani was working on. Uh, she had been there for some time. She wanted to she wanted to set the reactors to overload and explode. Also wanted to get some information from their mother system. You guys had a discussion slash argument over that, and then in the end decided to hightail it out. Um, and you guys took off, and that's when we assigned XP. So to talk about XP for a moment, we'll we'll just look at Jake. What did you do with experience? Did you use it already, or you hadn't decided?
It looks like I used it already.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good. Um, what'd you get with it? Do you remember?
Short answer, no.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Um,
Hey guys, I'm back, and I got a text from Jim saying that he's still waiting for the pharmacist to arrive. So if we're gonna start without him.
okay.
Well, we're doing accounting right now.
Aliens, the accounting.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
It looks to me, Dr. Jake Sinclair, unless you got it last time, it looks to me you probably picked up the tough talent. You might have gotten that last time. I don't recall, but either way, that's fine. Um, Rudy, what how much XP do you have, Rudy, or did you spend yours already? Oh, I think you did.
I did. I spent mine on learning the language of the ancients. I have
That's all right.
3 experience points just sitting and chilling in the bank.
Okay, perfect.
There's nothing new apart from that.
All right, very good, very good. Uh, we'll give Jim a chance to look at his when he gets back. What about you, Dwayne? How many experience points? Do you have experience points to spend still?
I do, and I haven't figured out what to do with those. Um, I might, I might want to hold on. I'm in the middle of something else. I might want to just increase something rather than take on a new talent. Let me look at my sheet here. I've already got resilient, which is a good one. I've got nerves of steel, which is a good one. Fast reflexes. Watchful doesn't seem to have helped me out yet. Weapon specialist on the AR, and I've got the tough talent. So
I am
I'm not
never going to kill this guy.
I'm not sure talent is the way to go. Maybe I need to increase. Maybe I need to increase one of my skills. But I'm not sure which one. I already get 8 dice for heavy machinery and 8 dice for close combat and 8 dice for ranged combat. No, 7 dice for ranged combat. What's the most you can have?
No
10?
skill can be above 5.
No skill can be above 5, right? Okay. So I still got room on a bunch of this stuff. We have a pilot, and Rudy's a good pilot, so I don't think I need to mess around with piloting as a backup pilot. I don't think that's necessary. So, um, hmm. um, it seems like we have a fairly complimentary crew because doesn't Jake have a crap load of observation dice
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Comtech for that matter, right?
Yep.
So, um, hmm. And I don't have enough weapons to take a weapon specialist and another weapon. So I think what I'll do is I think I'll increase my stamina by no. What the heck? I'm going to increase my ranged combat by 1.
All right. So that'll
And I'll
cost
take
you 5.
5.
Right.
And that'll leave me a few just hanging out there waiting to get up to 5 again.
That definitely works. All right. Very good. And then we'll get with Jim for Dwayne Hicks when he gets back. Um, so, onboard ship. You guys have quite a full house here.
You betcha.
Between the four of you, plus you have the pilot. Andy's character's still floating around. Doctor Mitchell Roman. You had four SSI security guys. You're down to three, unfortunately. One got melted in the by xenomorph blood.
He was one of the red shirt
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, no doubt. And then you've also got Dr. Khan and Rose Whitehill uh, and Dutch all on board. So you've got quite a full house, and now you've added plus Newt, and now you've added Ellen Ripley to the to the crew, which worked out just perfectly that one of the SSI guys died, because now we've got a spot for her on board in a
Oh,
in a
man.
cryo tube. I didn't actually plan it that way, but it worked out. Um,
Well, we always have the backup that Rudy doesn't have to go into cryo.
that's a very true statement, even though she prefers to. So, as you guys are leaving the atmosphere, um, and maybe what we want to do is want to go over to the ship and get an idea. That's a whole lot of people crammed into one room. So let's get an idea where everybody is at. You guys are leaving the atmosphere and you're getting into orbit. Um, I think Ellen Ripley is going to be. I think she's probably going to be in the galley, and we're going to put Newt over there with her. And I'm going to slide Hicks over there too, because I think he would stick with them for now. Where are the rest of you three at? Are you on the bridge? Have you gone elsewhere? What are you doing?
Rudy's probably on the bridge, I'm thinking.
All right. All right. Jake?
Jake will be with Ripley, listening to her stories and harassing her to tell us stories.
All right. Perfect. So we'll put you there. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Um, so you're we'll start with Rudy. Rudy, you're on the bridge. Verhoeven, Rose, and your pilot are there, of course. And as you guys are exiting the atmosphere, making it into space, your your someone's pinging your comms.
Okay. Key the mic.
The a very calm male voice comes through your comms, speaking English. Um, has a has a very has a British accent, and it says, "SS Lollipop, please come in."
Go for SS Lollipop. Who's this?
This is the administrator of the Wayland Yutani installation you just left. Um, SS Lollipop, I'm going to have to ask you to return to the surface, please. You have proprietary Wayland Yutani property, as well as, I believe, personnel on board that needs to be returned immediately.
Now, what's the status of our ship? Are we in space right now?
Yeah, you're exiting the atmosphere. You're going into space.
It's, I mean, it seems obvious to just fly him the bird and just get the fuck out of here. How close are we to jumping out of here?
Um,
Well, typically you've got to leave orbit to get out of to move away from the gravity well.
Correct. Get far enough away to generally speaking, you would want to be under normal thrust for a few hours or a shift away from the planet before you were to hit FTL. Um, he says. He says, Lollipop, I do not know why you are here, but you do have Wayland Yutani property, and obviously, I can't make you turn around. But let me make it very clear that if you do in fact leave Talos, if you do not return Wayland Yutani property, Wayland Yutani will never stop looking for you. We have your ship registration. We know your names. We know all of you who are on board because your registration is part of public record with the United Americas. We will never stop trying to recover what you've taken. We will pursue you forever, even in your dreams.
Oh, I'm terrified. Um, yeah, I don't know how to break it to this guy that we plan on returning everything that belongs to Wei Yu to the general public of the human sphere of galactic influence. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys want to say to this guy? Anyone? No one? All right, then I will take the microphone and I will thank him profusely for his concern um, about our cargo and about our personnel manifest, and that we would welcome Wayland Yutani's visit anytime they feel so inclined. We'll make sure that the welcoming committee is on standby alert.
There's a pause, and then he comes back. Very well. Good luck, SS Lollipop. And then that's it. He doesn't seem to have anything else to say.
Message received.
Um, so, Verhoeven and Rose are, of course, there, and they're very interested in everything that's happened. Verhoeven he's making it. He seems to be moving under his own power now, but he's not. He's not feeling particularly well. Um, but he looks at you, Rudy, and says, "So this was a success then."
Seems like we've touched a nerve.
Rose says, "Well, shall we go meet our new passenger?"
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, so we're gonna move you guys over there in just a moment. So over in the galley, uh, Ripley, who has she has removed she's removed the face mask again. She's still mostly encased in this armor and other technology. There's once you're on board the ship, of course, there's probably quite the tearful reunion between her and Newt. Lots of hugs, that type of thing. Um, uh, and I would think that after the happiness and the hugging is over, she's probably pretty pissed at Hicks. Um, you know, the 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 why would you bring her here type thing going on. Uh, uh, and Hicks, as is his probably quiet and silent, strong type, uh, probably shrugs and something to the tune of, "Well, we had to come after you." She wasn't going to stay behind. She was supposed to stay on the ship, and she hid on the tractor to come out here after you. Um, so, Jake, what would you like to ask Ripley? Do you have specifics, or you just want her to tell you the stories?
Just general stories.
So that's quite a bit. She kind of says, where to begin. Um, so she gives you the very brief tale of Nostromo settling on LV-426 because they received what they thought was a distress beacon, and they found that ship, and you get that whole story about how a single xenomorph eliminated basically her whole crew. Um, how she was recovered uh, on the far side of known space after having drifted through the core systems in hypersleep for 57 years. The returned LV-426, and of course, you've heard part of this story before already. Um, she, in more recent days, uh, she woke up in an infirmary on a planet called Fury 161 that used to be a lead smelting facility, and it had been turned into a prison run by Weyland Yutani. And she wasn't there very long before it became clear that there was a xenomorph in the prison, and the prisoners, after the standard rounds of disbelief, put up a fight, which in the end they won, but at the loss of almost the entire prison. She did in fact have one of these things in her chest that she identified as what she calls a queen chest burster. Um, Later to find out that Weyland Yutani calls it a royal chest burster. Weyland Yutani, officially, she died on Fury 161, but the truth of the matter is that Weyland Yutani captured her, took her to this facility where they underwent a substantially difficult surgery and removed the alien from her. Of course, she was in cryo for most of this. She was sedated, so she had no really control over it, anything along those lines.
She must have a really cool scar.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't
By
know
the
if
way,
you could do that laparoscopically. The Weyland Yutani wanted, obviously, they as they always do, they wanted the alien. They wanted specifically the queen alien. Um, and this facility, which is way outside of way past the frontier and outside of anybody's borders, is where they were doing a number of different experiments. She had been held here ever since awaking from that surgery. Things went south, as things inevitably do, especially because this this xenomorph that was here on this planet seemed to be a different strain from the standpoint that they don't necessarily reproduce the same way with the eggs and the implantation of embryos. There's something about them that causes their, and she doesn't know details, unfortunately, because it all happened so fast. When the first infection occurred, the colony and its 2 dozen or so human occupants went down in the space of just a few days. And it was, she had been liberated from a cell by a couple of the scientists and security personnel because there were only a few of them left, and they figured any help they could get. They'd hold themselves up in the center complex where you guys found all that technology, and they got picked off one by one. She only survived by figuring out everything Weyland-Yutani had done with the technology and turning it to her advantage. The the suit of armor, and she doesn't know where Weyland-Yutani came up with this technology. She doesn't. She knows it's something that they've reversed engineered, but she doesn't know from what or that type of thing. But fortunately, Ripley's a Ripley's a pretty tall woman. The suit was probably originally designed for a man, but being that she's 6 foot 6 foot 1, she was able to work into it as best as she could. It's super light. It doesn't restrict movement. The mask has aiming apparatus and that type of thing built into it, as well as functions as a rebreather. And then the plasma weapons, unlike anything she's ever seen. Not to mention the I'm sorry, the disc weapon that she used, that you guys saw her use on one of the xenomorphs. Um, the xenomorphs down on this planet, in addition to having a queen that lays eggs, just like she saw in LV-426, they also seem to have um, developed another means of spreading, almost like an infectious virus. Not sure if it's airborne or not, but several of the labs personnel or facilities personnel um, would grow kind of ill. They'd have a fever. They would get suddenly very agitated, and then quite literally the monster inside would break out of their skin. And this all would happen over the space of just a few hours. But she doesn't know how the infection is spread or anything along those lines. Not to mention that terrifying creature you guys killed, if you remember that one. You guys remember him? The big shuffling zombie-esque guy. Where was he? Oh, my picture's gone. Where's my picture? I don't know my picture. Anyway, but you
Is that
guys
the one
remember
that
him.
had a bunch of
Yeah, he sprouted face huggers.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
that guy was gross.
yeah. That too is new. Um, when she mentions as she's talking about how some of the lab personnel, seem to literally, have a xenomorph inside them that broke out violently, literally out of their skin. Hicks is probably showing a little discomfort at that topic, and Yeah, I would think he mumbles something to the tune of just like Anchor Point. So that's the quick overview. Jake, the biologist that you are, do you have additional questions?
I think not at this stage. Jake's just basically information overload, and also trying to still process what happened and the fact that they just got away and actually everybody survived. Well, mostly,
Mostly.
except the guy in the red shirt.
Poor red shirt guy. Um, so the door opens and Rose comes in with Verhoeven and Rudy. You went with them as well, I assume.
Yes, indeed.
So it's a big family meeting in the galley.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll light up the disco ball.
um, and I would think that Verhoeven probably had called for Dr. Khan to be there as well. So she would come over from medical. Um,
Is there enough room, or are some of us standing in the corridor looking in?
well, it's
Cozy.
yeah, it's probably a little comfortable, but you're a Class M ship, and a Class M ship is about 300 meters long, give or take.
All right.
So there's probably some space. Now it's of course originally designed for a crew of up to 8, and there's at this point there's a good you know 9 of you probably pressed in there. But um, so introductions all around. Just to cut through that a little bit. Um, I think Verhoeven is going to suggest that Dr. Khan give Ripley a once over. Um, she's probably a little resistant to that. She says, "I'm fine. I was there. I had been down there for almost 2 weeks, so I think at this point I'm pretty sure I'm all right."
Best to take copious amounts of blood for testing just to be sure.
Yeah, I think even Newt probably thinks that she should probably get herself checked out just to be sure by the auto doc, if nothing else. So, um, so what conversations are there to have? Ripley is. I'm sure Ripley wants to get caught up with Hicks and Newt in terms of everything that's happened there, and she of course doesn't know, who are all these other people. Um, so you guys can all have that conversation if you like, and determine your next move, I suppose.
Well, I thought this was a waypoint in the middle of our broader mission.
I guess we also asked Rose and Verhoeven where they want to jump to before Wayland Yutani or somebody sends 200,000 military craft after us, and then we'll make sure that Verhoeven and Ripley get acquainted. Thing
Well,
is kind of
I wanted to make a point. I wanted to make a point on that. They've got Wayland Yutani thinks we're the Lollipop, and they should have our aliases on record, not our real names.
That's what we're hoping.
So I think we have to change our registration back. And since where we're going, I don't know if registration matters, right?
Well, and Rose, I think would add to that point. From the standpoint of where we want to jump to next, I don't know that it really matters.
Right.
If Wayland Yutani, if whoever is still down on that station is monitoring us in any way, we can just jump any random direction for a day.
Right.
and then we can pick a different direction from there. We certainly don't want to jump to we don't want to set course for wherever our next destination really is.
So I suggest we jump into the direction of the most populated systems.
Let's look at the map real quick, shall we? So you guys are down in that ballpark, on the cusp of Tartarus down there. So
I hate being on the cusp.
that's right. So
Hurts.
in general, you would probably head head shoot, what's the actual term? But we'll just call it Galactic North to make my life easy because I suddenly can't
Yeah,
remember.
more towards the galactic center.
Yeah, exactly.
A little ways before we turn right in Albuquerque.
So that's that's easily accomplished. You guys can certainly have Tansy do that if you like.
Well, we also, it's great having Ripley with us. Everything she's accomplished, and she's proven she's a badass. But given what we have to do next, is Ripley even interested in coming with us? Maybe we should drop Ripley and Newt someplace where they want to go.
I'm not sure if Verhoeven is going to lose sight of her ever again, just saying. But that's between them. We're just the taxi service, so to speak.
Yeah, Verhoeven, at that statement, Verhoeven, he's going to, he definitely speaks up. Can you hear us okay, Jim?
Jim's on mute.
Let's make sure we don't have a technical difficulty before we keep going.
Okay, yeah. Do you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yep, gotcha.
All right. Sorry, everything's. Doctor was late. Pharmacist was late. Everybody's late. So sorry for joining late.
Must be nice.
Just
bank hours.
Yeah. Just a caveat. I may have to duck out, like I told Marty before. My wife had surgery on Friday, and some of the incisions are giving her trouble, so I may have to go help with that here in a little bit. But she's okay. Everything's good. Just picked up a script of Oxy, so she'll be good for a while. All right. Sorry to interrupt. I'll catch up here as I can.
No, it's okay. Look at your character sheet also and figure out what you want to do XP wise.
Oh shit, that's right. Okay.
We were all in the same boat. We've had weeks, and none of us really, well, except for Jake. I mean, Bob. Bob looked at it.
Yeah, Verhoeven, he definitely speaks up at that point, and he says, Ripley and Newt are certainly their own people. I'm not in charge of them. They can make those decisions, but Weyland-Yutani is never going to stop looking for either of you. And I certainly think that you would be at least safer here for now. Now, we can, in the end, we can drop you anywhere. But Weyland-Yutani is never going to stop looking for you. I think you're going to be on the move, perhaps for the rest of your lives. And the best way to stay on the move would be on a ship, I think. And Ripley speaks up and says,
especially with one of the richest guys in the universe.
Ripley says, well, you guys have already spoken a couple times about what you have to do next and what you're up to, but what exactly does all that mean? What is all this?
All right, who's gonna fill Ripley in? I mean, she told she she told us a whole crap load of stuff, some of which we knew, a bunch of what we didn't know. We might as well. How long will it take for us to give her the entire backstory? Because I think we should.
Yeah, I'd say that it would take a little bit of time.
Even if we go through the highlights, somebody better fix lunch. But I think that's I think my opinion is that's what we should do is give her the quick broad brushstrokes of everything that we've seen, everything that we've been going through, so that she can understand why we're jumping to this spot in the middle of nowhere practically. I look up at Verhoeven. It's your call.
Verhoeven nods. He says she needs to know everything.
Well, if she's going to sign on with us, she needs to know everything. All right. So, without recounting everything, can we just say that we spent the next block of time explaining to her everything that happened?
I think we can do that. Yeah, I think we can. I think we can montage that. Uh, cue the ominous music and the hours of nodding grimly and far off looks as people recount what they've been through, et cetera, et cetera.
Five
Uh,
cups of coffee.
yeah, exactly. Ripley is she takes a lot of this in stride because I think with everything she's seen so far, not much really shocks her at this point. Um, I the Though the talk of intelligent alien species is probably very interesting to her, if not outright surprising, because she spent a fair amount of time in space. She was a flight officer before the events of even the first movie, and you know the alien ship on LV-426 was the first sign of that. But to be given all this information that these types of ships have been spotted, elsewhere throughout known space, and that on top of that, there's these bombings that are happening. That's a Yeah. So and then the whole Yautja thing is that is probably more surprising to her than the other, because she'd never seen any evidence of anything along those lines. But it explains the Wayland Yutani technology, which you guys have quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
Um, I
Well, in her suit, it's so advanced and so technical. It she hasn't had time to think about it, but now that she could think about it, she'd understand something like that. It's just bizarre how it just pops out of nowhere almost.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that and she probably, I'm sure at some point she changes into real clothes and removes all of that, but uh, it's all very familiar to you guys, obviously, because you guys have seen Yautja and in armor with their different types of weapons, and it obviously it's not identical. It's clearly something man-made, but it appears to be made out to some extent. The plasma weapon and the disc itself, you guys have seen those before, and they do look like the actual weapons the Yautja use, whereas the suit itself, it looks like something man-made, if that makes sense. Um, Ripley Ripley is going to want some time. Verhoeven, he is outright prepared to offer her a position with SSI, in her company, just like he did for Dwayne Hicks, and basically like he's done for you guys. Um, Ripley, while she's not opposed to sticking it to Wayland Yutani and helping mankind at the same time, she feels like she's been in this fight for for quite a long time, and she especially doesn't want Newt involved in it. But she asked the question, I don't know where we can take Newt that she'll be safe. And to which Newt's response is, well, I'm not leaving you. So,
Me and my shadow walking down the avenue.
I would also like, excuse me, there's a lot of background noise. One second.
That's kind of how I feel this morning too. Like Shriek's dog.
Um, well, we've got the other complication, and that is Verhoeven's looking really rough. We've got some FTL travel ahead of us. And it might do him in. I'm wondering if we should. Well, I don't know if it's possible since he had to flee his last headquarters, but is there some place we could drop him? I he's the big boss and he has to help coordinate stuff. He's got people who work for him. We're risking his life by taking him all over the galaxy in FTL. He might not wake up from one of these jaunts.
Verhoeven, he kind of nods grimly, and he says, "Well, I've lived a long time, uh, and all that matters now is the work." Dr. Khan, she shakes her head and she says, he can't handle much more of this. His his body is simply going to give out. Liver, kidney, liver, kidneys, heart, whatever it is, he can't handle much more of these stresses. The if a Yautja blood infusion might help with the regenerative abilities it has, but we've pretty much reached the limit of that. The only next step is synthetic organ replacement, which even then I think that will be a losing battle, or genetic manipulation. There's just nothing else I can do at this point. Verhoeven shrugs.
Well, I don't want to change the subject, but we do also need to discuss our plans for revealing everything we've uncovered to everyone at large.
True.
I sort of thought that was our end game.
Well, we certainly we'd like to research as much as we can before we just jump into this unknown location with an unknown number of challenges.
Well, here's my thought. Even if we don't release it, we need to make plans to have it released because, we could all die at any moment. So if we die, it dies with us right now. The information dies with us. I'm sorry, what?
Anybody know a reporter we can?
Well, let's talk to Verhoeven's team, Rose and Verhoeven. They've got corporate connections, they've got the easiest way to disseminate the information if they're truly this altruistic organization they claim to be.
Um, Verhoeven, he probably, I think he smiles at that and says, uh, "Well, make no mistake, I wouldn't go so far as to call myself or SSI altruistic. However, I have dedicated my life to fighting alien threats. I've been doing it for over 200 years. In the end, as much information as we can release publicly as possible to blow the lid off this is what's important. It He says it does dawn on me at this exact moment that were something to happen to this ship right now, it would all end right then, right there."
All the eggs are in one basket.
So he says, "I think you're right. We need to make some plans for that, uh,
All right, so
Captain Rudy." Yeah.
so we've got a whole crap load of information and stuff we've collected that we haven't analyzed yet, right? We got Dr. Khan here. We've got
And amazingly, you have very little actual proof.
we have information, but you're right. We don't have proof of who's doing what to whom and when they did it and all that. You're right. We're living proof. Well, maybe not. We're living. um, but I think that um, anyway, I think that we could leave it to Rose and Verhoeven to disseminate the information where they think it needs to go. We can go wherever they want. We can transmit any way they want. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like you big brain people, because that's not me. I'd like you big brain people to look at as much of the data and information as you can and see if there's anything in there that will help us before we jump into this. Like I said, jump into the unknown. Our ultimate goal is to go to that phantom spot on the star map, but we don't know what we're getting into, and we don't know what we're up against. Yeah, there's the ping. We don't know what we're getting into. We don't know what we're up against, and anything that could help us would be awesome. If I had to count from where we are now to where we are there, we're how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah,
8,
give or
9.
take 12 parsecs.
That's what I was thinking, because I got to do square root some of the squares there on that triangle.
So we're at that star in the middle of nowhere, right, where the intersect of the two.
You guys are
Yep.
you guys are right here right now.
Yeah.
Oh, down there.
Yeah,
okay.
we're way over there. So what we
Got it.
talked about was going, when it's time to jump, we jump a short jump towards the population center, towards the center,
Soul?
and then change direction and jump to our spot. And so at 12 parsecs, what's our rating again on the ship? 6.
6.
So that's 72 days.
Yep.
The question I have for Dr. Khan about Mr. Verhoeven's condition is it the number of jumps or the duration of the jumps?
I believe it's the duration spent in cryo.
Okay. So what we could do is 72 days. So what we could do is spend several days Well, I'm suggesting for the big brains, this is your call, but you could spend several days doing research and then jump into cryo for a while and then exit again and do several days. You can basically do up to what, 6 days before having to enter cryo?
Correct.
How long do you really have to be in cryo before you can come out and reset? Or does it ever reset?
Um, that's a really interesting question. Because the rules are not particularly clear on that. In regards to, it just says that you can't spend more days out of cryo and FTL than the FTL rating of the ship. It doesn't really indicate how long you need to spend in cryo for that time to reset.
You know, I've never really understood what is the reason.
The
It's a medical
reason
reason.
it's it's because of FTL psychosis.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing.
Yeah,
They never explain it. Obviously, they don't want you sitting around doing stuff, but they never really. Well, there has to be a whole reason for going into cryo, right? Um,
well, yeah. Obviously, cryo was originally from an in-game explanation of why cryo even exists. Is you have to believe that you have to know that the first FTL engines were not,
right.
particularly powerful, and that even at let's be blunt, even at light speed, it takes years to cross a parsec, right? Because a parsec is shit. I don't remember. I want to say a parsec is like 4.12 light years or something along those lines. It's yeah. So anyway, that's the whole reason for the invention of cryo. Um, but even as FTL engines have gotten more powerful, um, it's still a lot of distance to travel.
So what? You'll go crazy, or you'll die
Yeah,
of some
I'm
sickness.
I'm trying to find the page on it right now. So give me just a moment. I will try to find that. But there's an aside in
No,
the.
I mean, don't go through any trouble. I was just curious. It's not.
But
It's not
yeah, it.
essential. I accept that we need to do it. I was just curious. What?
Yeah, it's if you spend a certain amount of time outside, if you go beyond your FTL rating in terms of time spent outside of cryo, you basically start to develop various mental defects or psychological defects is what it amounts to. Heart of Darkness actually explains it a little bit better, and it even has like a chart in it for what could happen to you. That you have to make a roll every day and that type of thing. So
So
uh,
what did we decide now was going to be our plan of action? Just to recap, with all the stuff that we've uncovered, did we get to any plan of action?
I think a rough plan was jump short, then try and dump Verhoeven somewhere, and then jump long on our way to the obscure area. Not sure what Ripley wants to do, and do research while we head that way. And if we have what we need, jump in. Otherwise, jump to a place to get what we want.
I meant about like the are we doing the journalist thing and getting the word out, or we're not doing that?
I thought we're gonna leave that to Verhoeven.
um,
Yeah, I don't know.
Verhoeven, Rose says I certainly have connections all over the place. I can most definitely I neurological distortion disorder. That's what it's called. After a number of
If you,
days of FTL travel equal to the FTL rating of the ship, roll a d6 on the table below. When the same number of days have passed again, roll again, adding +1 to the roll, and you keep adding +1 over and over. But it's almost like well, you guys have all seen The Abyss, I assume. Another
Yep.
Another great movie. You know how it's kind of like how Michael Bihn's character in that he's one of the Navy SEALs. He just he just slowly kind of starts to go crazy until he goes into full blown psychosis and attacks Ed Harris. Um, so, but
I
yeah, you go through a series of effects. Yeah,
I get the I got to tell you, I get the feeling that um I get the feeling that it's largely cumulative.
it is. It works like the way I understand it is it works like Panic. So you would roll your d6, and if you whatever the number is, the next time you roll, it can only go up. Is what it amounts to. So if you rolled an 8 and had an epileptic fit, the next time you roll, if you only get a 6 or 7, you can't use that. You would just move up to the next effect. So just
Right.
like with Panic.
So what I'm trying to say is, from reading this, because I was on the same page as you were reading it. From reading this, I get the feeling that um, as long as you're out of stasis, this effect begins to build, and if you go into space stasis, it's basically on hold. When you come out of stasis, if you're still in FTL, it continues from where you left off. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah, that's the way I read it as well.
I don't think there is a reset unless you come out of FTL.
Right. That's
Then,
exactly the way I read it.
then your subconscious mind gets to reorient itself. There must be something going on with all that space bending going on.
Um, so Rose says we certainly have the contacts. I can I can get all this out, and I think you would all agree that what we have is a huge body of information that in the end is all fairly circumstantial. It still doesn't indicate that we have no outright confessions from anyone at Weyland-Yutani. We don't have anybody that we've interrogated or captured from Weyland-Yutani that has given us direct information. We don't even have a whole lot in terms of Weyland-Yutani files. We have plenty that points to them in general.
Sounds like a to-do list to me.
Um, but God. All right, I just can't deal with that right now. Sorry.
Well, we've got the issue with the intentions. Their intentions are one thing. The science is something else. They're trying to weaponize a whole bunch of this science.
And Ripley looks at you all and says, all of that information, all of that proof is probably right down there on that outpost we just left.
Well, we don't have to solve every thread in this for it to need the information to be out there, because if we keep it to ourselves, it's just the people on the ship working to solve it. If we release it out there, then everyone's aware, and everyone can start asking questions, and insiders can come forward, and any number of things can happen. Plus, Wayu is going to take it on the chin in terms of public image and branding,
Right.
even without like the smoking gun. Like, there's enough here to make them look extremely bad and to start a huge uproar.
The reason I separated the two issues is that weaponizing the science, my issue with that is if we release all the science, then that could lead to 3WE, UPP, and UA all weaponizing the science and using it against each other.
Rose says, do you think they're not already trying to do that?
Yeah, but why should we accelerate that? Now, it's the difference between telling people there is such a science that they're using to weaponize that could endanger all human life. You can let them know it exists and that what these guys are doing with it without actually giving the details.
Well, I would say that releasing the details might allow people to come up with a cure for it.
Well, I get that.
I mean, if you don't release it, then the only people who have the information are the people who are making the weapon. If you release it, there might be a think tank out there that can crack the nut and render the weapon obsolete.
Well, and looking at it as a weapon standpoint, you can't generate the weapon, you can't weaponize out of thin air, right? So even if you have the information, you still need the goo. I mean, we don't. It's like saying here are the plans to a nuclear weapon. There's no uranium on the planet. Well, okay, well, great, right? So it's kind of open source versus closed source argument here. I'm not sure which is right. I'm just throwing it out there that, just because you have the plans doesn't mean you can build the thing.
All right. But you guys make a good point. We already know, don't we know that the black stuff that rains down and mutates everyone, the mutagen, we already know that's been weaponized by these folks we call the engineers, right?
Right.
We've seen them do it. So regardless of what UA or UPP or anyone else does, we've got that threat no matter what. The only thing we've got going for us is if people could come up with some kind of a countermeasure that renders the mutagen, renders it harmless. So in that regard, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like we're the chimpanzees running around the Congo where two human tribes are killing each other off and we're just getting stepped on. That's what this feels like.
Well, that's a pretty good analogy, actually.
So, what would chimpanzees do in this situation, I guess, is my question. If they could figure out how to get out of the way or stop another species from using it against them. I don't know. My I'll be in character here. The UCMJ mind is kicking in. What's our immediate priority? It's survival, right? If we don't survive, nothing happens. So, what is the surest thing we can do right now to ensure our survival? What path will in the next 2 months, including FTL? What next action is going to keep us alive to do the rest of this?
Fly way out to here, build a log cabin, and never talk to anybody. Oh, sorry.
That sounds wonderful.
Well, guys, it's been a fun campaign.
Yeah. It sounds like something Paul Verhoeven did in a different movie, actually, a couple of different ones.
Right.
Well, look, if anybody wants out, there's really only one way to do it that I can see is we have to, anybody who wants out, we should drop them somewhere as inconspicuously as possible. And
I don't know everybody wants out. What I'm
saying is if people want to survive, we need to get them off the ship and then use the ship as a decoy for them.
What's the chances of getting another ship to keep people and information safe?
I mean, let me finish this thought real quick.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This isn't like this makes sense from the standpoint of Rudy's personal agenda and her experience. Also taking into fact that she's basically has robot cancer right now, according to the last couple play sessions. She has that code that's corrupting her software, and the only way to get rid of it's going to get worse, and the only way to get rid of it is to reboot her to factory settings, which basically kills her. So she's sort of dead anyway. It's just a question of time. So I mean, if people want well, I mean, she's that's
no,
how
I
she's
get
gonna
it.
see
I
it,
get
right?
it.
She's not gonna mince words. She's capable of looking at it objectively.
Right.
So it's just, she's dead. She's just a matter of time. So if people want out, we should hide them, drop them off in various places, and then she should go out with a bang so that people think that, I don't know if she's going to crash the ship or do something, but do it in such a way that, Wei thinks everybody's dead.
Ooh.
I mean, it's not that for her would be the culmination of a beautiful life, not a horrible sacrifice. It's totally in keeping with her personal agenda, and she would definitely do it. You're not losing anything by losing her. She's already lost.
I don't know about anybody else, but I felt like that got really deep.
Well, there's two things that it does. I mean, from her point of view, the most important thing is not her own survival, but the survival of the information that everybody's died to get so far.
Sure.
And she's definitely 100% convinced that the only way to fight this is to get it out to as many minds as possible. Keeping it secret just helps the people who are wanting it to be secret. Like the fact that it's secret lets you know that that's how they want it. So the best thing you could do is destroy the secrecy. That's what they're afraid of. It doesn't really matter if we have all the information or, it's enough for people to be aware that it's out there for our mission to be considered complete. We can go on with it. We can go on with it if we want to. But if we don't do anything, like if we don't do that and something happens to us, it's like it's all for nothing. So that to her, that has to happen. It has to happen like now, because we know AU has threatened us. They're going to actively try to kill us. So that can come in the form of a torpedo, like right now.
Yeah. So out of game, do our characters have any knowledge of Prometheus and Covenant lore?
You have some amount of it, yeah. Based on everything you recovered in terms of memories from, because you basically have all of the original David's memory that you got from the computer core on GBH 45 before that was lost. Gosh,
well, Rudy knows how to fly.
Just
Does Rudy know how to fly? Does Rudy know how to fly and engineer a ship?
She is getting an inkling of it. What I conveyed to Rudy last session was that she knows that it has a lot to do with music and interaction with a particular type of flute. The likes of which you guys don't have, obviously. So she's got some basic rudimentary understanding, but you guys don't have everything you need. And she's been working on the engineer language as well.
It would help if the engineers made a YouTube video about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's how to make our flute.
Yeah. What about I mean, that would be the best proof forever. I mean, you don't want to hand over a ship. Well, of course, yeah, you wouldn't want to hand it over to somebody. You land one of those fuckers on the capital steps of 3WE or whatever. I mean, that's the ultimate proof, right? And we know androids can fly those things. So if you want to go big or go home, why don't we make it our stated mission to capture an engineer ship? I know it sounds silly, but they did it. I mean, somebody did it once before, right?
What do we do with the ship once we get it?
Well, that's the ultimate proof, right? We don't have any physical proof of this intelligent alien species, and that's what we're trying to do, right? We only have no direct proof. Is that what everybody's saying? Then
we don't have direct proof of the Yautja either.
I mean, we got their technology, a little bit of it, right? And,
right. Yeah.
Too. But okay, great. Those are one-offs. Landing a 5-foot ball length alien ship on the capital steps of a homeworld. That I don't know how much more proof you need than that.
Well, I guess what I'm confused about is what are we trying to prove? Aren't we trying to prove that? I thought what we were trying to prove was that Wei-Yu's behind all this.
Sure.
Oh no, hold on a second. Wei-Yu, instead of ringing the bell and marshaling humans together to protect, for all of us to protect each other, they're keeping quiet and using the technology for their own benefit and letting this crap happen. That's the problem. Is we have two alien species. We have two alien species that could be the end of all of us, and people need to know that, and that it's spreading. Especially the xenomorphs are spreading all over the place. But but also Weyland Yutani, instead of raising the alarm and making sure everyone knows, is keeping it secret and using the technology for their own financial gains, which is incredibly short-sighted if a couple hundred years from now all humans are morphed into something ugly.
Well, the black goo bombs.
What is that?
I can't speak my wife blending something in the other room.
That's one hell of a blender.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Sounds like my planer.
Right.
Do you have your camera?
Hold on, she's. Yeah, sorry, she's making smoothies. What was I saying? Completely forgot
Singular.
what the hell I was saying.
Well, Richie, you were
So,
asking,
okay,
what
the
are
black goo
what are we
bomb.
trying to prove? What
Right,
are we trying
the
to
black
prove?
goo bombs, though. That I thought that was Wei-Yu doing that. Am I like getting it
No,
totally wrong?
that's we saw engineer ships dropping that
Dropping the
Max saw.
mutagen.
Yeah, dropping the mutagen. That's what they're doing. They're flying around and then bombing. I don't know if they're trying to stop Wei-Yu. It seems like they're targeting Wei-Yu complexes, so that maybe they're trying to stop Wei-Yu from. I'm not sure.
Rose says there's also been 2 UPP colonies, as well as a couple colonies in the Wayland Isles, which are independent. So it does seem like that they have Wei-Yu has run across them quite a bit, but I don't think they're targeting Wei-Yu specifically.
It seems
So
to me
here's-
that, okay, I was just going to
Go
say,
ahead.
it seems to me that the engineers have been dropping the mutagen. We know that, and there's places where we found the mutagen, and it looks like Wei-Yu's trying to study the mutagen and use it for their own benefit. Now, I'm not saying it's an evil benefit necessarily.
But what else
They
would it
might
be?
be trying to, well, we haven't figured it out whether they're trying to come up with something that could alter humans and correct genetic problems, but so far it's had evil outcomes. But clearly they're using the Yautja technology too. So they're using all this alien tech for their financial gain. Regardless of what their motives ultimately are, it's for financial gain. I don't if they could make financial gain killing half the human population, that's what they do. If they could make financial gain by saving half the human population, that's what they do. But ultimately, it's about the money, right? I hate those guys. I'm in for whatever puts the hurt on Wei-Yu. Yeah, I'll help save human beings too because I'm a human, but I want to do anything that puts the hurt on them. I say give all the data to everyone right now.
Well, that would immediately kill their profit, because they don't own this. You know, if they sit on it in secret, then they do own it. But once it's out to the public, then everybody can. And really, it's not a Wei-Yu problem to solve. It's a human problem to solve because every faction, every government, doesn't matter what quote unquote nationality, anybody can be taken out at any time by these things. So everybody needs to be working to solve this. I think that's like the main thing we need to do for sure. I keep saying it because I feel like it's central to the plot to get this out there. And then, beyond that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I feel like that is the victory for now. There might be something to come after it, but that's To me, that's the most important thing. I mean, it's sort of the culmination of what SSI has been up to. Anyway, they've been fighting this war in secret that nobody knows about. How many files do they have that they could release? Talking about all the shit that's been going on that nobody has any clue about. I mean, look at it as like some corporation developing a virus, or there's a virus out there that could kill everybody and has. Nobody knows where it comes from. Nobody knows what it's about except for one company that knows all that shit, has a genetic profile on it and everything, and they won't release it because they're hoping to profiteer. That's basically what it is. So, you know, there's two things going on simultaneously as far as like, you know, reasons to reveal the truth. One is, you know, the best defense is to understand this virus better. That's basically the only defense. Well, I suppose knowing that there's an agent out there spreading it on purpose and that you could be next is important, because you could ramp up your defenses. There's physical things you could do to protect yourself. You could set up early warning systems. But the real defense is in being able to engineer a vaccine or some kind of defense so that they can drop it all they want. Go ahead, drop it. It does not going to affect us. You know what I'm saying? And then the second motive is to just spit in Wei-Yu's eye. You know, fuck your stupid, dirty plans. Now you can't make money off this because everybody has it for free.
Ripley.
I don't know. Hold on one second.
Go ahead.
I mean, Sharif, Rudy, I hate to, contradict you a little bit, but we're still missing the information is one piece. The commodity is another piece. Unless Wei-Yu has figured out how to synthesize black goo in the lab on their own without any original material, the information still doesn't help anybody else except knowing it's out there, right?
Well, I mean, that's a huge bonus right there. Knowing what the hell's going on can help you. But we have some information on it.
We do. It'd be like being on Mars. It's like being stranded on Mars with a gasoline generator to power your station, and there's no gas on Mars. It's only on Earth. So
but I don't know if I see it that way. I mean, if you know how this virus works, I mean, we have virus replicating technology now with CRISPR and shit like that. You know, imagine what they could do. I don't know what the state of this crap is in the future.
Holy shit. I mean, if they've been able to synthesize black goo in the lab, then we got a bigger problem than I think we're
That's what I'm thinking, is we don't know the full state of their ability to produce this. We don't know all of it.
And we don't know. I got the feeling from looking at all the research that Jake and SSI has done, and looking at some of the stuff we found in that other lab, I got the impression they were trying to alter it, to modify it, to make it do something they wanted it to do.
Yeah, I think it points to a lot of stuff that we don't fully understand. But we're, the four of us trying to ask all these questions. Like, when we release this, then now governments are involved. You don't think the governments are going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Everybody's threatened by this. So everybody's going to want to know what's going on. Then they have the power of money and law and everything else that they could use to pressure Wei-Yu.
I am worried a little bit that, depending how we release it and to whom, it ends up sounding like a wild conspiracy theory.
It's fine. I mean, we have photos, we have evidence. It's not like this is just like, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s alive and having lizard babies with aliens from another dimension. I mean, we have proof.
Hey, wait a minute. I will release those videos and those recordings when I am ready, okay? I'm just, so back off on that one.
I've seen it.
Didn't we have a jar of that shit in cryo?
Why?
I thought we.
I think we do. I think we actually do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we do have.
So
some.
We do have proof. It's like we got a jar of that shit in cryo. I mean,
and we have think of all the footage that we've taken from our video cameras fighting these fucking monsters. Like, it's just, like the narrative of events that we have seen and can back up. I mean, it's about us.
Rose
It's about as
Whitehill
proven as it gets.
definitely agrees that what you have certainly goes beyond, the Space Beast book, which was released a couple years ago, and by David Morse, who no one even knows where he is. That's banned across the galaxy as being lunatic ravings and stuff like that. What we certainly have evidence of all of these things. While we've never well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. GM moment. Let me back up. We have evidence of the existence of engineers. At least one. You have physically seen one. Uh, we have evidence of the Yautja. We have physically seen them. In addition to having their technology, we have evidence of the xenomorphs, which at this point uh, there are a number of survivors who have seen XX121 scattered across the galaxy. That the there there's while the majority of the population doesn't know about it, there are people out there that do, and we have evidence of Wayland Yutani's involvement with the black goo mutagen with XX121. We don't have any evidence of their motives or what they're really trying to do. We have what we know, what we think we know. But this does go far beyond a crackpot conspiracy theory at this point. I think we can't provide all the answers. That's true, but I think you're right. This certainly goes beyond a Bigfoot sighting that might have been a tree back in 1962 or whenever that picture was taken. And
So what do we do? Do we just put it out there to as many news agencies as possible, as many governmental agencies, as many there's got to be corporate watchdog organizations. There's got to be whistleblower organizations. There's got to be, very reputable media outlets. I mean, I say we just get it out there to as many people and it's across as many borders as possible. So no one entity can silence it because who knows how many people Wayu has in thrall, right? Through like power brokering and, corruption. And they might have, some governments in line with them, but they won't have them all.
um, Rose kind of looks at Verhoeven. Verhoeven just kind of slightly nods, and Rose says, "We can get all that out there. We can if well, all we need is network access, which we're a little off the grid right now, but uh, a parsec or two away, and we have network access. We can transmit anything and everything we want. We can send it to every major government, 3WE, UA, UPP. We can send it to ICSC. We can send it to news organizations. Now, many of them are controlled by the governments or the corporations, but we can put it out there. We can put it on the network for everybody. We can do that. We can just put out the facts we know. We don't have to. We don't have to say we know Wayland Yutani is weaponizing this because we can't prove it, or we can do it. We can say it. It doesn't matter. But at this point, the body of evidence is so large. We can. It'll take a long time to upload it.
Well, yeah, and there's also, there's a lot of moving parts to this. For example, Verhoeven's own personal story, I think, needs to be included. He might even need to be the face of this, to be honest, because he's been leading sort of a resistance to this for 100 years. And everything he's encountered, everything his organization's done, all that shit needs to come out at the same time. It's a whole, multifaceted, multi-decades long battle. It's time for people to know what's going on.
Ripley says, "Can I ask one question?" And this is I'm sorry to change the subject, but I've had this question in my mind for the last hour or two. Because at this point, you guys have probably been at this for a while, because you had to tell Ripley everything that you guys had been through, and Verhoeven probably, told her parts of his story. So you guys have probably been sitting in the galley for quite some time going over all this. Um, And Ripley says, she looks square at Verhoeven and says, "You claim to have been fighting aliens for over 200 years. These Yautja that you say that you fought back on Earth, what is their involvement in all this? The Wayland Utani and the and XX121, and even the engineers, but what do the Yautja have to do with this? Do any of us have an idea what their involvement in this entire thing is?"
As far as I can tell, it's sport.
Well, they seem somehow linked to the engineers, don't they? Like in a confrontational way. Are they? We don't. I don't know if it's clear. Are they trying to resist the engineers? I mean, in addition to, yes, the sport thing. The sport thing is sort of the thing that's on the surface, but don't they? Haven't they like responded or like arrived like right after engineers do? And when we were on that mining facility, this was, I don't have all the information here because that's the session I missed. But like the engineers arrived and then the Yautja arrived, right?
On GBH 45, right?
And that
Yeah,
happened
so
another time before that, if I'm not mistaken.
like you're
There
following
seems
them
to be
around.
like, I don't know if they're remoras, like like where the engineers go, they're like, oh, there's probably good shit to hunt here, or if they're like, you know, the resistance. I'm not sure what their angle is, but it seems to be, at least coincidentally, like, you know, some kind of superficial link between them.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
But you
Rose
know,
and
other people need to know about this again because we're the only ones who know this is even a thing.
yeah,
Well,
Rose says, "I certainly don't believe in coincidence."
I don't either. I think, first of all, um,
I should have used the word circumstantially. They're
yeah,
circumstantially linked.
I I don't know. I get the impression that the Yautja are more than just hunting these xenomorphs for sport. But if they are hunting them for sport, that means they could hunt us for sport. But they've been ignoring us, maybe because we're not the biggest threat in the room, using that terminology, but
Maybe they hate genetic engineering.
or
Maybe maybe
maybe
it
they
fucks
just
with their sense of honor. You know, that
maybe they
somebody's
don't maybe they don't even consider us much of a threat, period. I don't know.
well, they've hunted us before, and you know,
They have.
Verhoeven's living proof of that.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I think they'll hunt anything that could kill them. That's part of their, you know, honor system. Maybe somehow that's connected to, maybe they don't like the engineers because the engineers, it's kind of like engineer weapons are all seem to be genetically engineered, you know, which maybe, I don't know, I'm reaching here, but maybe it offends their aesthetic, you know, like you took something and made it artificial, something that they were hunting and something that they respected. I don't know, I'm reaching here, but it could be any number of things, you know.
I don't know. Um, I'm going to head back to engineering and do some maintenance. I just want to know, are we going to kill some shit or not? Especially if it can put the hurt on Wei Yu. Anything we can do. So if you think releasing this stuff is going to put the hurt on those guys, do it. But I don't have control of it. You guys do whatever you want.
Think of how hard they're going to have to scramble to do damage control on something like this. They may not even recover. They may never recover. Who's going to trust them ever again? If you found out that fucking craft,
Human nature.
Well, companies.
I mean, there's a limit. Companies
companies
go
have
under
been
all the time.
companies have been broken apart or nationalized for less.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, companies aren't immune. They reform, but they're not immune. And I mean, if you hate Way U, this is kicking them in the nuts. Is what it is.
So let's talk about, because I'm naturally paranoid. Let's talk about how do we make this happen and still ensure that we survive long enough to get the information out and protect the people that need to be protected, like Ripley and Newt.
Yeah, that goes back to the
We
notion
we
we had of
we've got there's two choices there, right? We got to either find some place to plant them that's out of the way, nobody's going to find them, like a planet, or have a mobile sanctuary like a ship. Um, I don't know which one is better, but my priority is making sure that they're safe at the same time that this information is getting out.
yeah, we need to. I mean, Newt can't be raised on a ship, right? I guess she could, but
Well, we're talking short term here. I mean, we need to. This is going to all go down if we're doing this. This is all going to go down in the next 6 months with FTL jumps. So we don't know that she'll have to be raised on it, but certainly she's going to need to be protected for a good long while until.
right. So somebody needs to go with her, and somebody needs to make a series of jumps with her before they end up wherever they're going to end up. Being on the lam is something Rudy's quite familiar with. I'm sure she is.
And so am I, Mr. Blake Jones speaking. I will tell you right now, my inclination is to stay with them and protect them, but I also want to get this information out.
Well, so Blake, Ripley, we should make plans to have Blake, Ripley, and Jesus Christ, what's wrong with my brain? Newt. Thank you. We should make plans to abscond them somewhere, hide them somewhere. Maybe the same, if we can find an out of the way system. It doesn't have to be the final destination. It could be the first in a series of destinations. But if we can find a place that's way out on the fringes to start them off at, that also has network access, we can drop them and spread the info and then jump out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about network access because I think that goes both ways. But we can develop that as we get there.
Well, there's no other way to get the info out, or is there?
No, what I'm saying is dropping me, Ripley, and Newt in a place that has network access means that somebody can look in just as well as we can look out.
Well, then we can drop you somewhere else, I suppose.
Yeah, that's
everywhere you go. You should just assume that they can find you.
Anyway, that's my parallel priority here, along with getting the information out. I will do everything I can, including laying down my life to get this information out. But I'm also going to make sure that Newt and Ripley are going to not have to go through what they've gone through up to now.
Verhoeven looks over at you, Hicks, and says, does that mean you're leaving the company?
Yes.
He kind of nods, his chin balls up a little bit. Says, well, that's unfortunate, but I suppose I had to know that it might very well happen. Says, well, he looks at Rose and says, I suppose we're going to have to find a new team lead after we get past all this.
Sorry, Paul. It's I've been doing this a very long time, and I need to make sure that these two ladies are safe.
Um, yeah, Ripley probably gives you a glance at that a little bit. We all know how independent that character can be, but at the same time, she doesn't disagree with you. Uh, yeah, Verhoeven, he just kind of nods again. And he says, I always had a feeling that if we ever actually did find uh, Ellen Ripley, that this would happen. I have to. I had to expect it. He said, "No offense, I didn't truly believe we would ever actually find her." And he kind of looks at Ripley and he says, "You're, believe it or not, you're kind of a legend." She does. She. I don't know that she has much to say to that. We're all on the outside looking in on the adventures of Ellen Ripley. She's actually lived them and probably didn't know up until now how much of that information was known by other people. Um,
Yeah, she's all right, but we've killed a lot of bugs too. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah,
more than her.
that's funny.
um, all right. Well,
The
let's.
key to that statement was all of us together versus her by herself.
I mean, she's done good. She bagged a queen, but she had help with that too.
Yeah.
No, it's all right. Saying she's not doing bad. I'm just saying we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want her to touch my power loader.
Okay, we're not going anywhere down that road.
Yeah. That's.
Long nights with Ellen and on some deserted planet.
All right. Well, let's do this because it is 10 minutes to 12 on my end. Why don't we break for a few minutes here, and then we'll come back together and figure out the final plan. I'm back.
I'm back.
Yeah, back as well.
The Blade Runner starter box set comes with a first adventure.
Marty, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
My alarm just went off. I got to give my dog some meds. I'll
Oh,
be
go
right back.
ahead. No problem. Reading through it, it reminds me not so much the storyline, but just the game itself, because it's a detective story in the end. Just reminds me a lot of Immaculate, which I really enjoyed running.
Right. Yep.
The uh, the only problem with a detective story when it's set in a sci-fi setting, though, is that there's in-universe things that the characters would know that the players may not. um, but it's not that big of a difficulty. It just I notice it comes up.
Well, I would think that that's kind of the same issue with any system that is setting heavy. If the players don't know the system or the setting, then you'll have that issue.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, because you see the same thing in Conan, because Hyboria is a really, really rich and detailed setting with a lot of different nations, with a lot of different cities, with a lot of different cultures that are all very detailed in the writings. So, and you see that in D&D, you know, D&D, which has been out 50 years here very soon. You know, there were adventures modules released over the years, especially in the 80s and 90s, that some people bought just because of a setting that was detailed within it, you know, a whole giant city or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of, or that's one of the things that make D&D work so well is the base is campaign agnostic. You, you know, you don't need to know anything to play the base D&D. Where if you put it in Dragonlance, then you need to know or start knowing stuff. But the base is any fantasy, so the player can walk in with zero knowledge, and it will work.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Versus a game like Alien, which is, like you said, it's very setting heavy. Um, the good news is that anyone who plays this game will have seen at least the first two movies, because there's just no way you'd be drawn to this without seeing the first two movies.
Yes.
I
Sounds like we're all back.
Yeah,
Maybe.
looks that way. Um, give me 1 second. All right. Um, uno momento. Sorry. You guys, you guys got to go anywhere today? Okay. All right. Sorry, had to check in with one of my kids for a second. Um. All right. So Ripley has one other thing to add, I think, to this discussion. She says, "I, uh, to be completely honest, I am tired of fighting this. It's literally consumed the last years of my life, even though I've been in cryo most of that time. But I'm really tired of just in the short amount of time I'm tired of fighting against all this. But at the same time, I feel like we'll never be free of it. So if there's a move to make, um, if there's a move to make that'll blow this all up, so that I don't have to run from it, so that Newt doesn't have to hide from it for the rest of her life, I'm in.
Well, I think for that to work, we need to know why Wayland Yutani wanted you. What is so special about you other than your knowledge about what happened?
She says, "Well, I think that certainly is how it started, but uh, that they identified that I had a what they call a royal chest burster inside me, and then it just turned into that I was there on that planet, and I don't know if they knew what to do with me next or if they had other plans. But for a while, it seemed that I'd been a common denominator with, you know, I was on board the ship that first discovered this life form. She said, it seems to me that this is the case. Do we think that the engineers, that ship on LV 426 that Nostromo discovered, uh, it sounds to me that we believe that to be an engineer ship. Do we believe that the engineers created the xenomorph? Or did this XX121 come from somewhere else?
I think current information indicates that they are at least responsible for the xenomorph in some shape or form, especially since we found a engineer or female engineer with xenomorphs around her. They didn't attack her, and the other aliens attacked them. So definitely they are related to each other.
Well, it's clear that we don't know. We don't know if they created the xenomorphs, but it's clear they can control them somehow.
I guess the first question is, Ripley, what do you want to do? Come with us or get out of the way?
Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't get it to unmute. I don't think. I don't want Newt anywhere near any of this. But I don't think there's anywhere safe for her to go. Not right now. So what's the next step?
Well, I still suggest what we decided initially. Drop Verhoeven and Rose after the first jump. Let them release the information to everybody, and we go to the site. After all the discussions, nothing has really changed on that front.
Of course, realize this is a rough. This is a very rough plan because all we have is some small amount of evidence that appears to show the origin of some of this activity to be a remote star system. That's all we know. So we were going to go there next and then adapt to the situation.
All I know is I'm going wherever she's going, looking at Ripley.
Verhoeven says, so we get to where we have network access. He says, I'm not being dropped off anywhere.
Well, with all due respect, sir, I don't think you have a choice. You're not going to make the next jump. And as we said, we don't want all our eggs in one basket. So we are dropping you and Rose off at the next jump, whether you like it or not.
And sir, you might have to be the face of this information. They're going to want to know where this came from.
I mean, feel free to buy another ship and follow us. 2 ships with information is better than none, or 1, but we're not going to take you willingly to your death. which is what that long a cryo sleep will do to you.
He says, and he kind of looks at you, Jake, and he says, I've lived a long time. I think the people that I've got around me are prepared to carry on this fight if that happens. If it's but I've lived a long time.
So what you basically you want to use us to do an assisted suicide? I'm sorry, but that's not what I signed up for.
Says that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all. I wanna
Well, that's what it's going to end up as,
I wanna
unless Rose can guarantee us that you're going to make the next jump. You're not coming with us.
I want to see the next I want to see the next chapter. I want to see it for myself.
But that is the whole thing. You won't, because you won't make the next jump. Medically, you won't make the next jump.
He kind of looks over at Dr. Khan for perhaps a little bit of help, maybe a little bit of reinforcement of what he's saying, that type of thing. And she just looks away. She won't say anything. Um, Rose, hold on one second. I'm sorry. Rose kind of looks over at him and she says they're right. She says these people. She said, and you're right. These are the right people to carry on the fight. They're the people to take it to the next step, and they're not grunts or soldiers or marines, but here they are. I've been saying right along with you that for the last 4 or 5 years that we care about protecting mankind, and I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is. And but you can stop now. Verhoeven, he probably gets a little bit of a smile for just a moment, and he really he really at this moment looks, you know, old and tired. Um, he says my Rose no longer just a spy, huh? And she says Alicia, my name's Alicia. Let us take you someplace safe, old man. We've got it from here. And he just kind of nods his head for a moment and says, "All right, where can we go? Where can we? What's nearby?" So you guys are which? I've got the star map in front of you. Which direction did you guys decide to head with that first jump? I don't know that we ever really decided. You just said you were going to go off towards somewhere. Was there an executive decision made on that?
Jake just wanted to go to the most populated direction because that would make them harder to track us next round of jumps.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a ton of colonies. Um, there's certainly a ton of colonies, down trailward of the cusp of Tartarus, but most of those are more outposts and fueling stations and stuff like that. Um, so you would see a lot more population heading spinward, which means going up on the map. Um, into the Tartarus sector, or maybe even over this direction. There's In fact, that I believe right there where I'm pinging the map, that middle star that's kind of in a group of three, is 289 Gamma Hydra, I believe, which I believe has a decent sized colony. Let me double check. I wasn't actually prepared for that instance. Give me just a moment to double check that. Page blah blah blah. I wish there were times when I wish the game book was a little more helpful. Which map is this? Oh, I must be using the map from the I must be using the map from the CMON book here. I'm not sure. Anyway, neither here nor there. If you head up that direction, 289 Gamma Hydra, there's a sizable colony there. About 20,000 people, which is certainly not small. It's not, it's not extraordinarily metropolitan, but it's as colonies go, it's a pretty decent size. That would be the closest large colony, unless you wanted to go, 5-6 parsecs. 3WE on the next ring in's got a bunch of large colonies. If you head coreward, which is over this direction, you've got, New Galveston, which is a very large colony. So
That first ping was where?
Right here, the very first ping right here. That's That's 289 Gamma Hydra.
Got it.
If you guys were to
And
head,
that's
sorry, go ahead.
and that the blue space there is
UA.
UA. Oh yeah, the legend's cut off. So
Oh, is it?
it's UA.
Oh, it is cut off on the left. You're right. Huh.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. Do we have any allies in UPP or other? I mean, I'm just, through all the contacts maybe Blake has had, or I guess we can just, call him Hicks now.
Yeah, definitely call him Hicks. The easiest places to go hide are really, for people who don't want to be found, is usually amongst the ICSC systems, because they are exactly what they sound like. They're independent. They, as a general rule, that's where people go when they don't want to be found. So you could certainly look to go to ICSC space. The problem is there are no ICSC systems near you. They're all.
I was just wondering if there was any background to Hicks's travels where he might have, allied with other forces that he could use now. That's all.
Oh, he got picked up by Verhoeven pretty early after shaking his handlers from USCMC.
Okay.
No, I'm sure Rose has somebody that she could get a hold of somewhere. Because after all, that's her information's kind of her business.
Right.
And you guys need to get to a network terminal anyway. So Rose, I would think that Rose would know some people on 289 Gamma Hydra that if you guys want to drop Verhoeven off there, that would be doable. It's only a couple parsecs away, about 2.5.
And what
It's
about
still pretty far away, right? Yeah.
what about Newton family? Are they getting off there?
Ripley doesn't want to leave Newt there. She does not want to. She wants to. What she had said is she wants to kind of see the next steps of this through, so that we can reach a point where she, but especially Newt, don't have to run and hide for the rest of their lives. So I guess Newt's staying on board ship for now.
And I go where she goes. It's gonna be my mantra.
Well, I mean, it's totally up to her, but I couldn't imagine a more unsafe place to be in the galaxy than on this ship.
Well, you know, and that's definitely true. But you know, she I don't want to speak for her, but it sounds like she wants to not just escape this, but also help eliminate this from following her anymore.
That's
So,
exactly her motivation at this point.
so it's going to be a balance of keeping her and Newt safe, as well as myself, and accomplishing this mission. I think both can be done at the same time.
All right. So 289 Gamma Hydra, is that the plan?
Yep.
All right. Very good. So it's it's a couple parsecs, and we'll obviously you guys are going to have to go into cryo and all that.
If it's okay with you, I would like to stay out of cryo this one time to prepare all the information, get
Sure.
it all organized and easily disseminated.
Yep. I think and I think Rose is going to, before she goes into cryo, I think Rose is going to help you with that to an extent. Basically, getting to the point where it's all on a data stick that can be basically just punched into a terminal and uploaded to a. She's putting an executable on that data stick that would basically, once it's put into a terminal, it would upload to probably 100 different network addresses across the galaxy, to include all of the major governments as well as the ICSC and a number of news outlets as well. And then beyond that, probably 4 or 5 dozen, and maybe even more than 100, but at least 4 or 5 dozen just random network addresses, like just getting basically a shotgun effect. If you fire enough buckshot, you should hit something, right?
Well, this won't preclude us from broadcasting it, right?
No, I wouldn't. I would. Yeah, I would say not.
Good.
All right. Sorry, work is texting me left and right. I'm sorry, guys.
Just a heads up, I don't have all that much more time left. I gotta help my. I gotta play nursemaid. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay, because it's actually funny you just say that, because I just got an email that I have a call from the body shop in about a half hour, so that actually works. I hate to cut the game short, but
Is that work or the strip joint in Rock Island?
that would be work.
Okay. I don't know if it's still open, but fantastic place if you're around Rock Island.
Yeah, all right. So 289 Gamma Hydra is obviously in UA space. What are you guys doing with your transponder? Are you staying Lollipop, or are you changing, or?
I think we need to change it. I think we need to go back to our main identities. What do you think?
Fine with me.
We had that discussion a while ago. If we're the Lollipop, every way you guys going to be looking for us.
I feel like they're
So,
going to anyway, no matter what.
Yeah, but they're looking for the lollipop.
But they know who we are. They know.
Since
know
I
Magellan.
joined this crew late, where has Magellan ever been outed by WAU or UA or UPP or any of that? I mean, have they been encountered
Back
with
in
the
the very
transponder?
beginning.
Okay, so it's not all right.
Yeah, after Alpha Casea, in your very first mission, you guys came back to UA space in Arcturus, and so yeah, you have been outed as Magellan a long time ago. That was coming in game. We're coming up on almost a year now.
Is it for this campaign? No, not this
Yeah,
campaign.
the campaign
Remember how many
started in
days are
April.
used?
Really? Holy shit!
Remember how many days are used up in FTL too?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because the campaign started in April of 2183 or 84. Give me 1 second. 2184. Yeah. So it's been you guys have been flying all over the galaxy.
Now,
Um,
totally go.
yeah, absolutely. This stay in cryo is obviously only 10 or 12 days. So Verhoeven's in kind of the same condition he was when you guys went in. He's not feeling quite as bad. Um, he still probably protests a bit at the idea of being dropped off, but in the end, I guess the decision's been made. Um, so he's going to arrange for a place to stay there on the colony, somewhat off the. Holy shit! Was that your role for the transponder? Jesus. Um, he he makes arrangements to stay under a different name. I don't think he's going to go by Verhoeven for this, just because Verhoeven was the head of SSI. As a side note, what is when you guys get start moving in on Gamma 289 Gamma Hydra? What's everybody up to besides just normal ship functions? I guess is the best way to put it.
Jake will just be trawling through all the information they have, and after, I guess, helping with the full physical for Ripley, there's nothing interesting there. Just continue with researching and analyzing the information so that we can add to the data dump.
Okay. Um,
I'm just in engineering doing maintenance.
all right.
And Hicks is the sound is going to sound funny, but it's in game for a reason. He's working on his memoirs to upload along with all the other information and what he's experienced.
All right.
Rudy's just getting the package together and putting it on data sticks and making sure there's enough for everyone to have one.
Okay.
Because who knows who's going to survive this? You might be the only one, whoever you are.
That's a true statement.
There can be only one.
There's
Ramirez.
what a great movie. What a great movie.
Yeah.
Except why did a Spaniard have a Spanish accent?
Yeah, Scottish accent.
Scottish accent. Why did a Spaniard have a Scottish accent?
You always sound cooler that way for an American market.
He
Of
was
course, Sean doesn't do accents. He is an accent.
he is the
Yes,
accent.
the Saturday Night
Bravo,
Live
other
skits, I him are the best. Saturday Night Live with him and playing Jeopardy.
Oh yeah,
The peanut's mightier.
that's right. That's right. That's what. The rapist. That's therapist.
Suck it, Trebek.
That's right.
I'll take peanut's mightier for 500.
He yeah. Anyway, we've got Andy's character running around, and I'll I'm gonna just so that we all remember he's still alive and kicking.
Well, we keep forgetting, and he's got some really powerful scientific mojo.
He does. He does. Oh, and if anyone, obviously, get rid of all your stress if you have any, and if you've taken any damage, that'll go back to normal. Um, we'll call that his observation rule. So the um, the he's with everybody else doing everything else. I think, and with Jake otherwise indisposed, working on getting all the information together along with Rudy and to a lesser extent Rose Whitehill. I think that Dr. Roman is probably investigating some of the technology that you guys brought back from the Talos IV colony. And there was a notebook that Jake had picked up, an actual paper notebook, and cross-referencing against that, um, the the Yautja armor is of an alloy that you guys can't identify. It's extremely light, and it is extremely tough stuff, resistant to a lot of armor piercing um, rounds you would imagine. Of course, I don't suspect you're firing off many armor piercing guns inside a spaceship, but just from general analysis, the between his own research and the notebook, he's come to a number of conclusions. You guys had picked up this mesh material, which apparently the mesh is designed to cover a Yautja's body, and it's connected to their ARM computer, and it actually regulates. It looks like it actually regulates temperature. It's generally believed that the Yautja are cold-blooded, that they've evolved from some sort of reptile, and that this mesh allows them to operate in a number of environments regardless of temperature. So obviously reptiles don't do well with cold, right? Um, and then the masks, or helmets, are there are a number of things. In addition to being a sort of holographic interface for an aiming device that's built into it and that type of thing. It also serves as a rebreather. So again, if the ouch is in an environment with an atmosphere that may not be friendly to them, it provides them those advantages as well. So that's just some of the information that he's come across. Also, there were plenty of other notes about Yautja weapons and armor being resistant to xenomorph acid, which is something I think you guys have seen, in fact. That that which is which I think to Dr. Roman would bring up the question: did they develop their armor specifically to counter xenomorph acid, or is that just a side benefit? There's a deeper question there, I guess, is the best way of putting it. Um, Once you guys have network access, Rose is scouring the network a little bit, just because you guys have been gone for quite some time, because you left from Grendel, right, and came all the way down here. So I don't remember what we determined the travel time was, but it had to have been something to the tune of, it was probably what, 9 parsecs or something in that ballpark, close to 2 months that you guys were in FTL. Combined with coming back up, which is just about 2 weeks or so. But there's been some interesting developments. Um, a a USCMC Bougainville transport blockaded Grendel for some time, uh, as well as seemed to land a platoon of Marines. Um, there was no combat between the authorities of Grendel and the USCMC, and in the end, the ship blockaded the place for several weeks before leaving. Um, Also, um, a colony number LV-187, which, see if I can locate that on the map for you, but it's an ICSC colony. Um, it's an ICSC colony that's somewhere in this neighborhood. Went completely dark. Uh, there was an independent journalist and a crew that went out there, as well as there's some indication that the USCMC was involved, but very little has been found, or nothing's been released at least. And then, last but not least, the colony known as was it just called New Britain? I'm sorry, I should have had this prepared, but you know me. Anyway, I believe it's called New Britain. Another ICSC colony has actually um, seceded from the ICSC completely and has declared themselves completely independent. They are calling themselves the New British Empire, and three Conestoga class frigates in the 3WE armed forces have actually defected to their system. So there's a lot of political upheaval going on, and
Is there any, I mean, like black and white, good guy, bad guy in that split? Or is it just...
not really sure. It seems like that the prime minister of that colony, his name was Pepper, Prime Minister Pepper. I don't know his first name offhand. I apologize. He basically just decided that the ICSC was not was not upholding its end, that it wasn't doing any good. Just like the 3WE and the UA, they establish these colonies and say, hey, you're UA citizens, you're 3WE citizens. But in the end, these colonies get established and they're left to fight for themselves. New Britain was supposed to be a 3WE mecca. They were literally their first city was literally New London, and they were building a replica of London. Um, and uh, and then the funding just kind of dropped off, and that's why they ended up going to ICSC. And so no, there's really no clear sense, but it seems that the fact that three 3WE warships defected from 3WE to New Britain is kind of disquieting on some level. The idea that that could even happen. So, um, and as far as LV-187 is concerned, the colony that just kind of went dark, there's talk of biological warfare of some sort, but not black goo bombings. Even though there's been another one of those up in UPP space. Way up here, in fact. I can get you the colony name if you really need it, but
I think we might need an Intel roll-up for all this. Right.
There's a lot of political intrigue going on in this universe.
No, I know. Yeah.
I've read all the books, so I'm trying to
Oh,
keep it
geez.
all in line with the timeline.
Oh man, you're
Yeah.
a better man than me. I can't keep all that straight. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So,
All right.
Um, all right. So I guess if we're just going to kind of cut to the chase a little bit, you guys are at 289 Gamma Hydra. You've dropped off Verhoeven. He's finding a quiet place to settle in. He took his gear with him. Not that that means a whole lot to you guys because you guys have tons of gear. The gear's not a problem.
What gear did
Um,
he take?
what's that?
What's he didn't take like the Yacha armor stuff. Is that what you're saying?
No, he just took his own personal stuff, a set of armor, a couple of weapons, and some of his stuff he staved from his office before you guys vacated. But no, he didn't take any of the stuff you guys recovered.
Do we have a way of keeping in touch with him?
Oh yeah, yeah. I would assume that he gives you a network address that you guys will be able to reach him at.
And Rose is going with him, and we have contact for her as well.
I think Rose is planning on staying on board.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think Rose is staying on board. I don't think Verhoeven feels that he needs anybody to stay with him unless you wanted to leave one of the because you guys have four SSI personnel left, or I'm sorry, you have three, I believe. You had four, one died. Um, so unless you want to leave one of the SSI guys um, with him as just additional support.
That seems like the human thing to do,
All
says the talking toaster.
right.
That's great.
um, anything you guys want to do while you're on this moderate-sized colony? Oh, did you want
Yes.
to I'm sorry, did you want to start the upload or the broadcast or what does
Yes,
all that
yes,
look
for
like?
sure.
Okay.
I imagine Rose will have, um, we've talked about the leads, where it should go. I imagine we did all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, send it off, and right before we leave.
Gotcha. Gotcha. It's there's a lot of data because you guys are including pictures and video files and that type of thing, so it's a lot of information, probably terabytes and terabytes of information that needs to be uploaded. And she probably starts the whole package with a video introduction. Um, uh, Briefly explaining what you're about to see. Kind of like the 120-second introduction on Dateline or what have you. Um, and as you guys put all that out on the network as it finishes uploading, but like you said, right before you guys take off and head into FTL, the what the heck happened here? The map moved. This is weird. The map's in a different spot because
Oh yeah.
my intersecting lines. There we go. The map got moved over. That was strange. Because my intersecting lines were intersecting in empty space. uh, the uh, the network, the impression you guys get across the network is that it's just absolutely on fire. There's so much sudden network traffic. And uh, Jake, since you're good at this, you want to make a Comtech roll for me? We
Yep.
actually have a roll this game. It's
Do it,
amazing.
Jake.
Do I assume SSSD and assistance?
We'll call it assistance, not the SSDD. Good enough. All we need.
Whew.
Well, he could have always pushed. probably gotten like 12 more successes. Um, Jake, there is no doubt in your mind whatsoever, as you guys are just about to hit FTL and pop off, that Wayland Utani, as well as elements in the UA and 3WE, um, are assembling their forces to do substantial amounts of damage control and containment. But Rose Whitehill is very good at her job, and she put it out there in so many places. Uh, you guys imagine the next time you make it back to a network, um, there's going to be quite the political shitstorm going on the network.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic.
Good thing we're already on the lam. So Verhoeven has the thumbstick too,
Yes.
and yeah, his buddy. Everybody gets one. You know, keep it alive.
That's right.
Okay, so
yeah,
you go ahead. Finish what you're going to
I
say.
was just going to ask, and does that have you guys setting course for the mystery planet?
Well, before we split, I want to ask about something in ship stores.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Is there an incinerator unit or a flamethrower unit for my AR-40? I mean, does the AR-40 take something like that, or is it a separate?
No, it's a separate weapon.
Separate weapon. And it's relatively, I'm assuming it's relatively cumbersome. It's a two-handed weapon.
Yeah.
How many incinerator units do we have in ship stores? I'm looking for ship stores. There it is, all the way. Ship stores. How many incinerator units do we have?
Thought we had 4.
Weapons. Strat Sol.
Yeah, you got 4.
M240 incinerator 4. And the guy at the last outpost who had the incinerator unit wasn't the guy who got melted, right?
Correct.
So we still have that incinerator unit.
You do.
All right. I wanted to make sure there was one for me. Having now spent some time fighting stuff,
Yeah.
if I can burn it rather than blast it, I don't want acid everywhere, so I got it.
All right.
Okay, that's all I wanted to verify before we left.
Yeah, that's a valid question. If you guys had anything else gear-wise you think you wanted to try to pick up. But I think you guys are pretty well equipped.
Thanks to Verhoeven and his bottomless pockets.
Well, if you're collecting even 1% for 200 years, what does that come up to?
Yeah, I get that.
Yep, a lot. All right,
Have you ever read the Forever War? Sorry to change the subject. You guys ever read the Forever War by Joe Haldeman?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, do you remember how they go out and there's like time dilation and they come back and like their bank accounts are like astronomical?
Yeah.
Yeah, they get like regular paychecks. They're soldiers of the future, but time dilation, like the physics are real.
Right.
So when you go out on a mission, for you the travel time might be 2 months, 3 months, but when you come back to Earth, like 50 years has gone by.
Oh yeah.
And so you've been collecting salary for 50 years.
Yeah. So the soldiers leave. This is just barely even like a detail worth mentioning because there's so much more cool stuff. But I thought that was kind of cool. Like they're drawing pay the whole time they're gone, and it's going into their accounts. They come back and they've got like millions of dollars.
Well,
I need to read that one again.
Yeah, and what I liked was using all that money came in handy because the main character had this thing for a chick, and she got discharged, and she was going to age and be dead by the time he was done fighting. So she used her money to buy a ship, and a bunch of them would jump back and forth between two planets at light speed so that they could keep the time dilation the same.
Hmm.
So that when their friends got out of the army and the thing was over and they came back to the planet, everyone was about the same age still, even though over 100 years or more had passed.
Yeah, it's a cool book because every time he comes back to Earth, the social mores and stuff have changed. And things that were like considered taboo are now like totally fine. And the stuff that was considered normal when he was like coming up, like is now deviant. It's very interesting for that.
That's a nice detail. Oh my gosh, this guy's
All right, I guess we should get on with it.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys,
We are at the top of the hour almost.
we
I
are.
don't know if you guys had to go by noon our time here, then you've got 8 minutes.
Yeah, it might be the. Yeah, I think now's the. I think now's a good stopping point. Because I do have a call here shortly, and I've got something else I got to take care of a little bit after that. So, sorry to make it a short session, but we'll. Everything's a go for me next week.
Yeah, it looks good for me too.
Yeah, I'm in.
All right.
I'm in.
All right, so next week we're going to kick ass and take names.
All over the galaxy. Well,
Oh man.
almost a bit.
There we go. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. You guys did push one thing a slightly different direction than I expected, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So, cool. See you guys in a week. Thanks for playing.
Okay, cool.
Same
See
thing.
you guys.
Thanks, everybody.